Guys, if I was to ask you guys to tell me who the greatest Formula One driver or the greatest motorsport driver of all time is, or at least give me some of the greats, the answers that you're going to get in the Formula One sphere is certainly going to be drivers like Michael Schumacher, Lewis Hamilton, Max Verstappen, Sebastian Vettel, maybe Niki Lauda, Alan Prost, Ayrton Senna, drivers like that. And certainly, when it comes to stats, that kind of makes sense. And if we were to extend it into NASCAR, you would, include Richard Petty, Dale Earnhardt, Jimmy Johnson, incredible drivers from that era. Rallying, certainly Sebastian Loeb. And if we were talking IndyCar, Mario Andretti is the GOAT. And certainly when it comes to stats and wins and championships and everything like that, you definitely would consider those drivers. But I mentioned the greatest driver. And here's the thing. Being a great driver doesn't automatically mean wins and championships. Now, for some of you guys watching, you might delve deeper into the Formula One and motor racing lore, and you might give me individuals like Gilles Villeneuve, somebody who was certainly a great racing driver, but died before he got a chance to really become, this world championship conquering driver. And you could make a similar sort of claim for in IndyCar, Greg Moore, another driver who was considered to be a great IndyCar driver already, someone that could have been in Formula One himself before he passed away. But I'm not even talking about those, because I'm actually talking about the greats when it comes to the spirit of a Formula One driver. Because you see, there's way more to it than just being good around corners and just being good on the straights. I'm talking about what is required to be an awesome Formula One driver in the paddock. The qualities. Let me give an example of what I'm talking about before I start really delving into this. Let me give an example in terms of compassion for your fellow competitors, that respect that you have for other drivers. Now, if we're talking in terms of drivers like that, you actually have to go back to the 70s and 80s. Because certainly in terms of compassion, the one that really stands out for me is a guy called David Purley. Now, this guy is infamous in Formula One folklore, and there are certainly videos of him, but not of him driving. Actually, these are videos of him trying to save another Formula One driver's life. In the 70s, was probably one of the most dangerous times in Formula One. Cars were catching up flames on a regular basis, and there was one certain example. I can't remember the racetrack in which it happened. The Dutch Grand Prix is literally right in front of us on the Wikipedia page, where Roger Williamson flipped his car over. The car caught fire with Roger Williamson still inside, and David Purley stopped his car, ended his race, to sprint across the racetrack to try and push Roger Williamson's car aright, to try and save his life. His courage, his compassion, his respect for drivers was pushed to another level, and he delivered. So if we're talking in terms of compassion, David Purley is certainly one of the greatest Formula One drivers of all time, because his compassion, his respect, his courage was tested, and he came through with flying colours. In fact, he won a medal for his courage. But there's another sort of quality in a Formula One driver that I'm here to talk about today: resilience. And when it comes to resilience, there is a very clear podium of drivers that have been these resilient drivers. The type of drivers that are so stubborn that they don't even listen to life when life tells you you need to stop. Now, the three that stand out in my mind, we'll start off with the most obvious one, is Niki Lauda. Niki Lauda, who had already won a couple of world championships by this time, and then for when he was battling James Hunt in the Nürburgring, caught in a fire, he had his last rites read to him in the hospital. He was on his deathbed, and his resilience pushed him through, put him through the most painful medical procedures to clean him up on the inside, and competed later on that season, missing out on the title by 1 point, and continued to win world championships afterwards. That is resilience. Those in the British fan base that might be watching this video might also think about a recent example that we have in Billy Monger. Billy Monger was an up-and-coming racing driver. He was in the junior Formula categories, could have been in Formula 1 at this point, if it weren't for the fact that in Formula 3, I think it was, he crashed into the back of another car to the point that his legs were crushed. He lost his legs, double amputee, and yet despite all that, he has done motor racing since. He's done certain marathons and sprints since. That sort of resilient spirit of an F1 driver is certainly there. And it's actually along those sort of lines, that amputee lines, that it brings us to the driver that we're finally talking about. Yeah, it's taken us 5 minutes to even start talking about the driver I'm about to talk about. That shows the resilience. One of the greatest racing drivers of all time when it comes to resilience. And we're talking about him in particular because sadly he passed away a couple of weekends ago, which is Alex Zanardi. Now, Alex Zanardi's career for a long time was, your typical Formula 1 driver of the 90s, which was, he was moving in between. And actually, if you were to look at his stats, just look on the right-hand side, we're not talking about a incredible driver in terms of, let's say, luck or skill, right? Like, to his credit, he was at Jordan Minardi, Lotus and Williams in Formula 1, which at that time they were struggle fests, and he got 1 point, so an 8th place finish at that time. And only raced for, 5 seasons. Nothing special. Now, actually, if you go a little bit down further and you start talking about this Champ Car career, which is IndyCar, what it was back then, okay, we're looking a little bit differently now. A guy that got 10 poles, 15 wins, 26 podiums. In fact, he won a couple of championships. And in the World Touring Car, similar sort of thing. Getting race wins and everything like that. But we're talking about resilience here. So, is the resilience that we're talking about the fact that, he struggled in Formula 1, so he moved around and went to a different series and he did well, and that's what it is? Well, no. I mean, that is certainly part of it. That is really certainly part of it, that he struggled at Formula 1 and moved to Champ Car, IndyCar, and did well. But here's the thing. It's actually was only the start of his resilience. His resilience really came to the fore after IndyCar. Because you see, there's a little interesting fact when it comes to his World Touring Car Championship, but once again, 4 wins, 10 podiums. And it's this. He did it as an amputee. Yes. You see, in the IndyCar, and let me scroll down to make sure I get it correctly. In 2001, he was in a situation where his car was hit from the side, accidental. The nose of the car was completely cut off. His legs were amputated immediately. And there was a time we were like going, my God, he's dead. My God, he's actually dead. Just look at some of these details that we're talking about here, right? So the nose of the car was severed. So his legs were cut off in the incident. We're not talking, that his legs were... he lost the feeling in his legs, went to a hospital, and then they were surgically removed, which is actually what happened when it came to Billy Munger. He lost his legs instantly. Lost nearly 3/4 of his blood volume. He was very much looking like he was not going to survive. But he did. What happened afterwards? As an amputee, he drove in World Championship. Won races in World Championship. But here's the thing. Didn't stop there, right? Because here's the thing is that fantastic. Finished in 2000. He did a bit in 2019, but mostly in terms of competitive stuff, we're talking about, sort of like 2000. What was it? 2009 was it that he finished up? Yeah, 2009. Now I'm doing some quick scoring because I'm trying not to provide too many spoilers here, and I probably have already, because after all the racing, he still didn't stop. Because after that, he moved to Paralympics. Now, there's a great picture of him here. I love to show this. It's a great picture. Now, you can only see the top of it because of the way that it's all cut off. But that's him at the front, racing for Italy as a double amputee in hand cycling. And how did he do? Well, he's a racing driver, so pretty bloody well. Have a look at this. Paralympic Games. 2 gold medals in the 2012 Olympics. 2 gold medals in the 2016 Olympics. Oh, and by the way, he got silvers as well. World Championships. Golds. Silvers. Bronzes. This guy just did not know when to bloody quit. And let's just look into... I know we don't like to look into age too much here. So the guy was born in 1966. His last medal was a gold in 2019. 53. 53-year-old hand cycling in World Championships, winning golds. Incredible guy. So what happened? What happened? Why are we in this situation where he has died at the age of 60? Why are we here? Well, this is the thing. There wasn't a happy ending here. Because in 2020, he had yet another accident. However, this time he wasn't in a car. He was on that hand cycle that you see. He was in an Italian national road race. He was going down a hill. He lost control. Crashed into a truck. Suffered severe brain injuries. And here's the thing. Even then, there was still resilience. Even then, there was other situations that was going on. He was waking up. in 2021. He was returning home. He was living home. And then here's the thing. A fire then broke out in his house. Now, the fire didn't kill him. But the fire did affect his medical equipment. The guy just would not catch a break. And here we go again with resilience. Because all the medical equipment, right? Just think about this situation. 2020, severe incident that caused you to have a brain injury. You're starting to recover. You're like, oh, great. 2 years later, your medical equipment then breaks because of a fire that's broken out in your home. At what point do you, as a human being, after going through a crash that causes you to lose your legs and everything like that, at what point do you go, I think life is telling me to give up? And yet, that was 4 years ago. Now, some people looking at this scenario can certainly look like and say, and you hear this phrase all the time, the guy cheated death. Man, this Zanardi cheated death twice for certain. But cheating death, I love the term in a way, I sort of don't, because cheating death, in one sense, does make sense, because it's more of a case of where you just so happen to be in the situation that you are. When he lost his legs in that crash, he was lucky that medical personnel were literally there as it was had happened. In terms of the cycling accident, it had happened in an international world championship, not in like some sort of training going on, right? So guess what? There was medical personnel on the side. And I suspect, because it being Paralympics, there's probably extra medical personnel because there's a higher likelihood that something like this would happen. So yes, in terms of those, you could certainly say he did cheat death. But here's the thing. There has been this thing when it comes to having this will to live. And the will to live is more than just I need to stay alive. It's that thing of I need to be doing something. I need to be competing. I need to be smacking my desk and causing a scene. And that is what Zanardi had. Loses his legs. I still need to be competing. I'm a Formula 1 driver. I'm a racing driver. I'm competitive. It's in my blood. I'm going to do some bloody touring cars. It's probably not working for me. I'm still competitive. I still need to be doing something. Do you know what? I'm going to compete in the bloody Paralympics. Not in my peak years. In my later years. I'm going to almost do it as a side hustle. And that's what we're talking about in terms of resilience. This is truly a tribute to Alex Zanardi here, because this guy is a testament to that racing driver spirit. When we look at people like, for example, Romain Grosjean, after his fireball crash, and yet he still has this stubbornness, some people call it stupidness, to go into racing again. What is it, NASCAR is in at the moment? It's not stupidness, it's this steely determination to compete no matter what. And you want the epitome of it, it's this guy. He is one of the greatest of all time. And yes, like I say, if we're talking in terms of stats, yeah, he doesn't really compare. He doesn't even compare to Jenson Button in terms of his stats. But he certainly doesn't compare in terms of the greats. And even in terms of IndyCar, yeah, he got 15 wins, 28 podiums, 10 poles, but that really doesn't really compete with Mario Andretti and other drivers like that. And again, in touring cars, yeah, it's decent. Doesn't really compete with the Jason Platos or the I cannot remember the other guy's name, like the Colin Turkingtons, right? We're not talking in terms of incredible championships or anything like that. But when we're talking about this resolve to keep going no matter what, Other people might have this spirit. Other people might have this steely desire. But I don't think many people have been tested to the levels that Alex Zanardi has. And Alex Zanardi, in terms of then coming through the other side, seemingly stronger than you were before. And do you know what I find so cool about this? Is, yes, when it comes to driving ability, Formula One drivers are very different to you and I. I mean, I can drive a car. I can even drive a car fairly quickly, but certainly not at Formula One standards. Probably not even Formula 3 standards, but, you know, I can drive a car. But when it comes to that compassion for others, such as what we were talking about when it came to David Purley, or when it comes to this steely resolve like Alex Zanardi has, that's something that you and I can do something about. Those times when a boss gives us hell, or we're struggling to find work and we're sending in our resumes and it's not working here and there and everywhere, and it just feels like nothing's going right. That's when you can truly learn from people like this. Of like going, I don't care what life tells me to do. I'm going to do this other thing anyway. I'm going to keep going. I'm always going to keep going to spite those people that tell me I can't do it. And so, yes, for that reason, for that true reason that you can go, yes, we can learn something incredible from our F1 drivers, from our motorsport drivers. Yes, there is something about them. Someone that really epitomises what being a racing driver, what being a Formula One driver is all about. There is no one greater than Alex Zanardi. This is literally just being a global of Alex Zanardi. I don't know if anyone's going to have any comments on this, but you know, certainly I loved doing a piece on this guy. I wanted to spend a bit of time researching into Alex as well, and which is the reason why we didn't do a video last Tuesday for the Miami Grand Prix. But we are going to do some sort of reaction specifically about George Russell next week. But yeah, I'd love to know your thoughts. I'd love to know if you enjoy this sort of content, if you'd like me to do more about racing drivers of the past. And until next time, all that's left to say, guys, is don't forget to subscribe, subscribe, pop a comment down below, and take care.